Hello, everybody. So we're going live again. So shortly, I'm going to be inviting over my good friend Emil Ekvardt, and he was a professional poker player who managed to gain and generate over $1 million from playing poker, professional poker, and he's obviously learnt a lot of lessons throughout that journey. And it takes a lot to obviously be a professional poker player. So I want to ask him today what he learned along the way. But he's a personal development coach also, so I want him to share some of his amazing words of wisdom with us here today. So thank you for being here, everyone, and I'm about to bring him up now. Here we go. Here he is.
Here we are. Hey, Ryan.
Emil, how are you doing, my friend?
Ooh, I'm feeling quite energized today and a little bit nervous. It was a while since I've been live on anything. I do a lot of video recording, but then you can always do another take. So this adds a little bit more butterflies in my stomach.
Yeah, no, it's good. I feel like it's good. Sometimes you need to put yourself in that place of discomfort in order to bring the best out of you. So
I
I'm gonna
agree.
say a quick little story actually. So Emil, when we sort of first met, maybe back in 2020, and we connected with each other. But I'm gonna say I think it was about a year ago now. You said to me on a call that I should consider what the benefits would be, say, for leaving my job. Because I said to you that
Right,
I
right.
was looking to quit my full-time day job to say go after what I really wanted in life and to create something. And you said to me, using the progress that I've had in this short amount of time,
Mm-hmm.
and what would it be like, or what would I be able to achieve if I say took that leap of faith and then worked on myself on a daily basis? And when you said that, I thought, God, that's going to be so uncomfortable. But then, really, I believe like the next level of your life is hiding in the center of discomfort. And by you saying that, that obviously led me on to actually being challenged to almost quit my job as well, which I did almost 1 year ago now, and I haven't looked back either. So
Wow.
yeah, so you was a big part of that journey for me, and I'd say you was probably the catalyst for that as well.
It's an honor being the mama bird throwing you out of your nest. And it's incredible to see your journey since. You have grown so much. I regularly view your content, and it's remarkable the way you keep improving and expand, and how you appear more and more precise and confident every time I hear you speak. So, congratulations to your courage.
Oh, thank you, Mel. It does really mean the world to me, and honestly, like you to me, you inspire me as well. So like obviously look at you as a good friend of mine also, but I also look at you to be a mentor of mine too, because I learn from you and the things that you've told me and advised me. And I tell you what it was, like even not even a year ago now, you said to me, do you know, I can't remember what it was now. You said, oh yeah, that was it. You said, do you know what active listening is? I said, I've never heard of it. I don't
Right,
even
right.
know what this thing is. Like, what is active listening? And you said that this is when you can listen to somebody, but then take on board exactly what they said and then speak it back to them in a way that they know that you've listened to them and you've taken on board what they've had to say rather than just thinking of what to say next and replying to,
Yeah.
yeah, responding to actually what they've had to say. And yeah, I didn't have a clue what that meant. So when you told me about this, I was so happy, and I've worked on my active listening on a frequent basis. And obviously, being a part of your podcast as well, which has really helped my speaking skills and also my listening skills as well.
I can hear the difference just the way you interact with me now. It's beautiful to see your transformation.
So Mel, so let's get started off today. So the reason that I brought
Let's
you
do
here
it.
and invited you here is because your journey, I've heard your journey, and it really does inspire me. So if anybody doesn't know who you are, could you please just say, tell us about a little bit about your life's journey, and maybe where you've been, what life looked like for you, say in your 20s, maybe some of the challenges that you may have come across, and what you had to do or
Mhm.
what had to happen in order to get you where you are today.
Certainly. Right. So I was incredibly lucky because I found a huge passion of mine when I was 16 years old. I was at home at one of my friends' place and we played some cards just for fun. We played for cents and we played, regular live poker. And something shifted in me. It was like I reached a level of consciousness I hadn't experienced before. I was suddenly hyper aware and I saw everything at the table and I was fascinating and I was just lost in the game and time stopped existing. And I just wanted to play more and more. But the problem is my friends didn't want to play more than once or once every week or bi-weekly. So I turned to the internet and I asked my mom for a present when I was turned 17 to get $30 to play for online. And then I played on the internet and I started winning, and everything I own today comes from those $30. I turned that into $1 million before turning 25. And to me, the biggest gift of that was that I realized early that here is something I want to get real good at. And I think that's something that if I was 20, I would really look for that. I would look for something that I want to master. Because I can look back and see that one of the reasons I did do well in poker is that I early decided that I want to be as good as I possibly can be when I'm 25. And already when I was like 18 years old, I started making decisions based on how good can I make myself when I'm 25. So I had very long-term thinking. I wasn't looking to make quick money. I just wanted to be as good as possible in a skill that at that time was valuable in the market.
Amazing. And yeah, so you say there, Mel, like you was focusing on the long game rather than that, say,
Yes.
instant gratification. And for you, it was about improving your skills and becoming the best that you can by the age of 25. So I'd like to ask you briefly then about the game of poker itself. Like, how much of poker is, say, skill and how much of it is luck?
The cool thing about poker is that if you and I played poker right now, you could easily beat me. Even though, let's say you never played before and I'm a professional, you would still beat me maybe 40 or 30% of the times if we just played one game. Because then it has a lot to do with who gets the best cards. But if we played 10 games, it would be much harder for you. If we played 100 games, it would be almost impossible for you. And if we played 1,000 games of poker, you wouldn't beat me.
Wow. So it's about, you said about playing the cards that you've been dealt there. So like
Yes.
in life, all we can ever do, say what say gets thrown our way, we can only work with the cards that we've been dealt. So what did you have to do in order to say make the best out of those cards that you've been dealt? And how or when did you know, like in your mind, when was the switch to say, right, it's time to fold or time to carry on? Because I know at one point, hearing your story before, I believe you was like 50K down at one point, one night, and then you kept
Yeah.
playing to the point where you end up being 50K up, was it?
Yeah.
So what made that decision in your mind to carry on going rather than say folding?
The decision to carry on going had a lot to do with I estimated that I had an edge in that game. I estimated I was better than my opponent and I could take the financial swings even though it was a lot of money. But what's really interesting is what happened after that, because I was around 25 and by that time, like 2 years earlier, um, my girlfriend had left me. I started becoming unhealthy because I was playing 12, 15 hours per day, 7 days per week. All of my energy went into poker and I neglected other key areas of my life, my emotional health, my mental health, my physical health, my relationships. So I ended up being sick, lonely, depressed, and poker was kind of the only thing that went well for me at that point. And that night, like you said, I went from being down $50,000 to being up $50,000 in like 4 hours. It was the biggest comeback I ever made. And I went out to the balcony here where I live, and it was a dark November evening, and I smoked a cigarette. I was smoking right then. And I couldn't feel happiness. I was kind of relieved that I made my money back, but I know that a couple of years earlier, I would have been elated. I would have been jumping up and down, and now I just didn't feel much. And I kind of as cliche as it sounds, I kind of knew I had to change something, that more money at that point wouldn't make me happier. And that's kind of where my personal development journey started. I Googled the day after, how can I be happy? And I really started to wanting to learn, how can I be happier? How can I be healthier? How can I create better relationships? How can I create emotional well-being? And let's see. Yeah, so after that, I realized I had to quit poker for a while and focusing on the other aspects because I wasn't functioning, right? And the more I learned about personal development and the more I changed my values and I got into spirituality, the more I realized that, fuck, I'm really good at poker, but poker is a zero-sum game. For me to win in poker, someone else needs to lose. You know, I don't create any value for the world the way you would do if you started a company or something. And I realized that even though I'm good at this game, I need to do something else. And at that point, which this took many years to, find my values and change career and stuff. But my passion for poker spilled over to passion for personal development. And now I approach personal development and I coach in personal development with the same approach as I did as a poker player. I'm saying, how can I master personal development like before I'm 50? So I want to think really long term and really build up my skills in this area to coach other entrepreneurs to become, to solve the problems that I went through when I was 25.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that with me. And I've heard that story before about when you said you Googled how to be happy. And I'm sure you know that
Beginner
when I
level.
went through my depression, I done exactly the same
Yeah,
thing for weeks on end. Every single night, I was Googling how to be happy because I was desperate for this happiness that I believe came externally. So
yeah.
I want to ask you now quickly there, what did you find? Like, what do you now believe to be happiness?
It's a bit tricky because we think of happiness as good feelings, right? Like hedonistic happiness, like when you eat some nice ice cream or when you get a kick from scrolling your phone or that stuff is not really lasting. I tried. I went down the route of overeating food, trying drugs, trying sex, all that stuff. It doesn't last. I think what lasts is to actually what I did in the beginning of poker, and I think that is what got me hooked, to find something that I am really good at and spending a lot of time trying to get better at that thing. So I feel like I kind of find it now with my work as a personal development coach and wanting to get better in personal development. I feel like this is something I'm good at, I give value to people, and I get better all the time. And the more time I spend in that zone, the happier I am.
Yeah,
So find that thing for you,
I, I,
or things.
I love that because there is a big difference between happiness and true happiness. And like you say,
Yeah,
that happiness comes from those things that we get in the moment and they don't usually last. Like it's
yeah,
not long lasting happiness. And like you mentioned as well, Emil, like it could be drink, drugs, even sex, for instance.
yeah,
But those things they don't last forever. So I believe like true happiness is finding something that you would like gives you meaning, like something that you would happily do every single day for the rest of your life. Um,
yeah.
so
And something to add to that as well that is really important for my
please
happiness
do.
is to create deep connections with people around me and a deep connection with myself. So one of the more important things to learn is, like you mentioned in the beginning of this conversation, learn how to actively listen, how to create an emotional connection with those around you. I think that will do a lot for you to feel connected and less lonely and happier.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's absolutely brilliant. And yeah, I feel like personal connections, like when you can connect with somebody as well, is so important. Like when we can have a conversation with someone, like we're doing here, and
Right.
use say our conversation to help other people as well, which we're doing here because I've seen the
Yeah.
comments. I feel like that brings a sense of say joy or happiness that beats any other, say, materialistic item or thing that you could ever purchase.
Yeah, well, at least for people like you and me that are very growth oriented, right? I'm kind of jealous sometimes of people that can just enjoy the moment. You know, I have so much dopamine in my brain. I don't think I'm wired to be all that happy. I think you and I are wired to be a little bit dissatisfied all the time. So we keep improving and keep creating stuff.
Yeah, I call it being positively dissatisfied. So
Right?
happy,
Ooh, that's a
happy and
beautiful,
grateful
beautiful
for
one.
where you, yeah, being grateful for where you currently are, but also excited for where you're going or where you're going to be. So you're always
Mm,
going after something because progress equals happiness in my eyes as well. So, Emil, I want to ask you some of the first few questions. I have 5 questions to ask you today. So
go
the
for it.
first one would be, what is the best piece of advice you have ever received and why?
For me, that would be, I'm not sure if it's a quote, but it's a short saying that is, it's better to be interested than it is to be interesting. That one really changed my life in the beginning of my journey, because in all social interactions, I wanted to, enhance myself. I wanted to appear smart or cool or um, get other people to like me. And I was all in my head thinking about me. What am I saying? And didn't realize that first, other people don't care so much about me. They're mostly care about themselves. And also, the less I care about how interesting I am, and the more I allow them to appear interesting by asking questions, being curious, really wanting to get to know someone else. It's so much easier to create a genuine connection. And they will want to reciprocate. They will want to show interest in you after you've shown interest to them. So it becomes this synergic effect between two people in a conversation.
Yeah, be interested rather than interesting. So I believe that was from the book How to Win Friends and Influence People.
It is?
Yes.
Ah, cool. I just heard it from someone. I'm like, fuck.
Yeah, so I heard it first.
Okay, so it's from that book.
I heard it first from, say, our good friend and your best friend, Eric Bergman.
Right,
When
right.
I first met him, I said, Eric, what's the one book that you advised me to read? And he said, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And that quote really stood out to me. And it said, be interested rather than interesting. So I put this into
Yeah,
practice, which was to go out there and ask people about their lives, what's been going on in their life, what they're looking forward to, what they're trying to create in their lives. And I found that so many people would rather talk about themselves than anybody else. But that allows you to speak about something that they're interested in, which then will
yeah,
allow you to create that connection with somebody. And then in the long run, or after a period of time, you can then say the doors open a bit more where you can now ask that person specific questions that you would like to ask, rather than going
yeah,
straight into the conversation or the relationship. Like, oh, could I ask you how to create a business? No, you start a conversation with something that they're interested in, and then
yeah,
they're more willing to then help you. So that's what I really learned from that quote there. So I love that quote.
yeah. And the concept of better to be interesting than interested was so key for me, because I was very shy all the way through school and in my early 20s, because I'm quite introverted as a person. And I also had a lot of social anxiety. And introversion is kind of a genetic character trait that you can't change. But the social anxiety, and those two together, by the way, create shyness. And I was very shy. And I had a lot of social anxiety because I always felt this pressure to say the right thing, say something smart, appear in a certain way. And it's because I was all in my head instead of focusing on other people. So I think a lot of pressure we put on ourselves can be removed by just caring more about others.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with everything you said there, and yeah, such a brilliant quote. So thank you for answering that first question. So I'm going to move swiftly on to the second question, which is almost the
Go
opposite,
for it.
which it would be, what is, say, the worst piece of advice you have ever received and acted on, and what was the result?
Right. Yeah, I have a good one here. When I was in fifth grade, our school weren't allowed to give grades to students until the sixth grade, right? But they got something happened, so they still had to send out some grades in the fifth grade. They were doing some changes in the system. And as a protest, my school said, okay, we're going to put There were grades 1, 2, 3. So they were going to put a 2 on all subjects for all students as a protest, right? But they didn't inform the parents that this was happening. So my dad got home my first grades and saw that he's average in everything. And he took me into my office, into his office, closed the door, and started lecturing me that if you're only average now, you're going to be average in high school. That means you're going to be average in college. That means you're going to be average in university. And you have to be the best there, the best there, the best there to get into the university I went to and then get a good job. And I took that advice. It had a lot of negative effects on me. It made me believe that if I'm average, I'm a loser. I have to be exceptional. And I think that's like the backside of all the self-help that we do. We create this sensation that, okay, I need to be like really fucking great at everything and have this perfect morning routine and do everything, be super productive to have worth, right? So for me, that created a sense that it's not okay to be average. I really have to achieve. I have to get really good grades in school. And I didn't realize that first, that's not the only way to do things. You don't have to be good in school to create a good life. And also, it was his dream. It was his dream that I would get a good job. It has nothing to do, like, sure, if I would have gone down that path, and if I didn't find poker, I might have. But if I would, yeah, on my graduation, we would have celebrated together and we would have been happy, but it would have had nothing to do with me. Everything I would have created would have had nothing to do with me. So that advice is completely selfish. It was all about him. But I believe him, and it took a long time to undo that perspective.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, Emil. And what I took from that is, I personally believe, like, quite often the people that are closest to us, it could be loved ones, friends, family, what they do is push on their fears onto us, disguised as love.
Yeah.
So they say, oh, I don't
Yeah.
think you should do that. I don't think you should go there. I don't think you should follow this path in your life, because you could, say, lose some money. You could not enjoy it. You could this, you could that, to the point where we
Yeah.
get so worried, we don't actually go after something that brings us meaning and that we personally want to do. And then we end up following the crowd, following the route that someone else has almost told us that we need to live.
Yes. And it's with a good intention. Like, I believe he truly wanted what is best for me, of course. But like you say, it's a fear-based thinking.
So going from that question on to my next question then, because I think it ties in quite well actually, is although life's about progressing and learning on a sort of daily basis, I believe, or a huge,
If that's your value,
say,
you can have a life where you value just being in the moment and enjoying life. And I think that's a really valid path to go down as well.
oh yeah, I totally agree.
You can value socializing. You can have family as your value. You can have a great life and not care about progression so much.
Yeah.
So that's your value.
I like that.
And mine.
I like that. I like that. Thank you. And actually, yeah, it was what I said about earlier about, say, being happy in the moment with what you have as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that question that I just asked you there, and you said about your dad pushing on his, say, what he would like or want out of you, but then
Yeah.
it wasn't your true life. It wasn't you that wanted that. So yeah, although, say, life's about learning things and moving forward as well, it's also about, say, a big part of life, I believe, is, say, unlearning things as well that we've been taught up through childhood experiences, through that, say, that molding as a child. Like, we get molded or shaped into this thing that we are today. So
Sure.
what was, say, the main thing that you had to unlearn that you learned throughout your childhood?
think it's being too self-centered. Honestly, I can see that when I was in my 20s and I started poker, my top values was to get recognition, to achieve stuff, to succeed, to accumulate wealth, to have sex, pleasure, that kind of stuff. And it's because almost all of my focus was on me, right? And in the end, that created a lot of suffering for me. Shifting my focus away to ask a question more like, how can I use my skills that is valuable for someone else? How can I be of service? How can I be honest for the sake of being honest, not because it will give me something? Yeah, I think that's the main thing.
Yeah, no,
It's a big topic.
it is a big topic, and I really say, like your answer there about being of service rather than self. Because again, going back to what I mentioned earlier, like I personally again found that when we can be of service to others and the world, it just brings this feeling of meaning, and it makes you feel. I mean, it makes me feel, say, alive. Like I feel like when I can help somebody else, it brings this feeling that nothing has ever brought me in my life before.
Yeah. And what I mentioned now is closely connected to the bad advice I got earlier. Because when I believe that I need to be really successful to be, worthy and welcome in my family, that creates a very egocentric perspective, right? Because now it's all about me, and how can I become best in class? And I have this competitive mindset. And then I got into poker, which is also super competitive. So yeah, I had to unlearn that and become a collaborator instead of a competitor.
I like that. Yeah, so collaboration over competition is so important. Yeah, no, I like that. I really do like that. So I want to ask you now, the next question would be, say, what is the one or the greatest lesson that you learned from one of your, say, most painful life experiences?
Poker made me realize the importance of balance. Because I was extremely unbalanced when I played poker. I played for 12, 15 hours per day. And that when you're extreme in one direction, you get better results there, maybe, but you also get extreme side effects. Right? I got extreme side effects on my health, on my relationships, on my just emotional experience. And I also got a lot of diminishing returns in my playing. So I played 12 to 15 hours every day, 7 days per week for 7 years. I played insane amounts of poker. But the thing is, I wasn't as effective on all of those hours. When I had played 12 hours in a day, on the last 3 hours that I was pushing it because I wanted to achieve as much as possible, I was probably maybe not even making money because I was so tired and I make bad decisions. I might have even lost money because I played so bad that I actually didn't have an edge anymore against my opponents. So if I just would have taken that time and invested in my girlfriend, invested in my health, invested in my emotional well-being, I would have been way better off, and I wouldn't have crashed in the same way when I was 25. I think it's fine to be extreme for some period, to learn where your limit is, but you don't want to live in the extremes, because that creates a lot of pain in other areas.
I really do like that as well. So what you said there that really stood out to me was learn your limits, but don't live in your limits.
Yes.
Because we all
Yes.
have, say, a threshold or a upper limit, and that's really is say pushing 100%. Because I think I mentioned this in a comment the other day on your post, actually. Like David Goggins says, when we think we're done, we're only, say, at 40% capacity of our full, what we can really achieve. But that feeling there, when you feel like you're done, you feel like you're giving it your all, but maybe you're not. So when you say put the throttle down even more and push even harder, that's really taxing and tiring on you, your body, your life. So you can't sustain being in that, say, full throttle for a long period of time.
No, but it's good to have gone there.
Oh yeah.
When I graduated from college, I don't know, maybe it's not called college, but I was 18 and I graduated, right? And I had slept for 3 hours per night for a whole year because I only played poker, the whole nights every day. And I was just waiting to graduate so I could play full time. So the first year after graduation, everyone else was out in the sun. It was July, partying, having fun. I rented an office and invited 4 other poker players here in Stockholm. And I played 180,000 hands of poker in 1 month, which is equal to 18 hours per day, on average per day for a whole month. Which meant that most day I played for 23 hours, almost without breaks, and slept 1 hour and then kept playing. And I did this for a month, right? And after that month, I went swimming for the first time in my whole summer. And I took my shirt off, and I hadn't even looked myself in the mirror, right, for a year. And I had gotten so fat. Like, I had fat under my tits here, and I must have gained like 20 pounds in a year. And my friend Niklas, that was there with me, he started laughing, like, uncontrollably. Because I was so white, I looked like Moby Dick the whale and had gained so much weight. And he's like, what the fuck happened to you? I'm like, whoops. Extreme side effects. But it's good because I learned from it. It's easier to find what is balance after you have explored the extremes, but you don't want to live there.
Wow, that's just crazy to think you stayed up for that amount of time. Like those numbers that you just mentioned there about, say, sitting up and playing poker was just like mind blowing. But it also, yeah, going back to, say, the balance, there's no, say, give without take. Like if you want something, you need to give up something as well. So yeah, super important. So let's move on now, because I know we're sort of stuck for time here as well. I don't want to take all your time. So my final question, Emil, to you would be, knowing what you know now, what one piece of advice would you give to your 20-year-old self?
To find a skill that you enjoy and that you are good at, and then aim to master it over a long period of time. You need time. Like, our society is so focused towards quick results. Get quick abs, earn money quick. And it doesn't work like that. Anything that would pay you good money has a high barrier of entry, and you need to be really fucking good at something. So start looking, like test a lot of stuff. I was so lucky that I find poker in a sense. But on the other hand, I had a group of guy friends that we just tried a lot of stuff. I've tried most sports. I've tried most games. I tried a lot of different stuff. So finally I found something that was a perfect combination of stuff that I'm naturally good at. I'm naturally good at math. I'm naturally good at psychology. I'm naturally good at strategy. I'm naturally good at reading people emotionally. So poker was the perfect game for my psychology. But it was quite random that I found it. But on the other hand, it wasn't random either, because I tried so much different stuff, right? So look at what are you naturally good at, and then find a skill in that area. Are you good at drawing? Maybe something in design. Are you good with people? Maybe something with communication or leadership or getting groups to work. And then say, all right, I'm going to give myself 10 years now. I'm going to get really good at this thing. I'm going to become world class in it. I'm going to become the best in the world in it. And by the best in the world, I mean, your world. So if you are, I don't know, if you're starting a cafe here in Stockholm, you want to be the best cafe in Stockholm, right? You don't need to be the best in the whole world, but you need to be the best in your world. You need to be the best in your niche, and don't spend your time doing stuff if you can't become the best at it. I wanted to be the best in the world when I started poker. I didn't get quite there, but I got far. And also make sure that what you're trying to get best at is helping other people. Because that was the thing I missed with poker, right? So I had to kind of start over. So find something that you enjoy, that you're good at, and that the market is willing to pay you for, meaning it's valuable to people. And bam, you got something there. Because if you don't do this, you're going to get sucked in to meaningless things like computer games or gossip or whatever, right? You need something to try to master in your life. And that's where most of your well-being will come from. That's where most of your happiness will come from. And it's not going to be fun all the time. It's going to take you maybe 10 years to get really good at this thing. And most of the time when I played poker, it was pretty dull. Just like regular hands. And then sometimes you had these high moments, right? But a lot of the time it was a grind. I'm trying to become best in the world at personal development now. Most of the time it's a grind, right? So don't expect it to be fun all the time, but damn, find that skill. Find something that you want to get really good at.
Yeah, I mean, you said a lot there, which I feel is priceless knowledge because you've been through it yourself and you've learned so much along the way. So what I took from that was to, like you say, find something that you want to get really good at. So I almost say find something that you would die for and then live for it.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
You said you wanted to become the best poker player in the world. You may not have got there, but it was that pursuit and the progress that you was making along the way to become the best version or the best poker player that you could be for you. Because success is subjective. Like what success may look like for me could be completely different to what it looks like for you or any of our viewers here today or listeners. So find out what success means to you as an individual and then work towards achieving that. That's what I took from that.
Yes. Yeah, I look back at the poker years and I see that I gave it everything I got. I realistically couldn't have done much more. And that makes me feel so fucking proud. And that leads to confidence. There was something more I was going to say on that. Maybe it'd come back.
Maybe. So,
yeah.
I mean, for now, I'm done with the questions, Emil. So was there anything else that you wanted to say before we sort of end this up today, other than that thing you can't think of at the moment?
It might come back, but for now, I'm so impressed with for you guys listening, if you have observed Ryan's interview style here. When I speak, he repeats a bit of what he heard me saying, and then he tell me what his lesson is from what I told. So it's so much easier for me as a speaker to interact with him because he repeats what I'm saying. He's telling me what my message means to him so we can have a connection. And also now I found what I was going to say before. That the thing you are really good at, that might be one of the skills you want to master, could hide behind your biggest fears. That was certainly the case for me. Poker I just stumbled upon and it was quite easy. But another skill that I really want to master now is speaking. And I feel like I'm getting pretty damn good at it. And to me, speaking in the beginning was horrible. I'm an introverted person. I had never spoken in front of people ever. And I had to do it the first time when I was 27 because I got invited as a Toastmaster to a wedding. And it was horrible. I went to this public speaking club, Toastmaster, and kind of learned the basics. And I sucked so hard at it. I never could have imagined that I would be speaking for a living like I do now. I publish a lot of videos on the internet. So yeah, if you're really afraid of doing something, it probably means that you should do it because behind that could be something that is real valuable for you.
Mm-hmm. So from that, there's a quote and it says, do the things that scare you until they don't.
Yes.
So you must head towards, say, that place of discomfort in order to break through to that next barrier of your life. But yeah, life, I believe, is like, say, a food buffet restaurant. Like you go to a food buffet restaurant, you've paid your price to eat anything you want. You normally start with the things that you enjoy eating, but then you become sort of courageous and you think, oh, I'm going to try a bit of that food. There, I'm going to try some of that food that I've never tried before. And then you get a taste of these things and you think, that's not too bad. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be in the first place. And then you try more and more and more to the point you're trying all these weird and wonderful foods. So life's about experience things, going out there, seeing the things that you like for you and not anybody else, and just trying different things. If you don't like it, it's okay to stop, turn around and try something else. So that's what I took from that email. And I just want to say thank you so much as well, because you was the person who taught me active listening, and you was the one that sort of guided me speaking on camera for the very first time over a Zoom conversation. And I think we done sort of maybe 2 or 3 guided sessions with you there in the background. And I was so nervous. I was so scared. But by being placed in that place of discomfort, I've managed to grow into the person that I am today. So just know that practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes progress and eventually turns into permanent.
Definitely. And it's also so valuable to have started at a really low skill level in some areas. I started at a really low skill level in speaking, in relationships. And that means I can bring other people up easier as a coach because I can understand where people are stuck. You know, when you had your first, I coached you in how to be a better interviewer. I had sucked interviewing as well, so I could see, you know, the mistakes you were making, and I knew what is the next step for Ryan here.
Yeah, I mean, it's so important to gain the advice from somebody that's been where you want to go. Because direction is way more important than speed. Like, we can ask anybody and everybody for the answers, but they may not have been to where we want to go. So you could be going at 1,000 miles per hour in the wrong direction. So I listened to you because you've been there. You failed at what I would say failing at the time, which was trying to just speak and listen. And you taught me the tools that you learned along the way. So just thank you so much, Emil.
Thank you. Is it okay if I pitch myself
Please do.
before we
I wanted to ask
shut
you
off
then,
here?
say, what can anybody say that's going to watch or listen back to this? What can they do to say, reach out to you, to support you, to connect with you? Like, what? Yeah, fire away, please do.
Thank you. The easiest thing would just be to add me on Instagram and send a message. I respond to all messages I get because I really care about helping people with any questions they have about personal development. I do offer one-on-one coaching, which you can read more about on my website, whatsmissing.com. And if you really want to go deep and truly understand important topics in personal development, I would listen to a podcast that I do together with my best friend, Eric Bergman, that is called becominggreat.com. We spend 100, 150 hours on each episode, so they are really packed with value.
Emil, thank you so much for being here today. And I'm sure so many people that have watched or listened have taken away so many golden wisdom nuggets, because I've seen the comments in here that I'm looking at now, and we've had some great comments. I just want to say again, thank you so much, my friend, for being here today and for introducing me into what we're doing here now, interviewing people, because if it wasn't for you, I probably wouldn't be doing this. So thank you so much.
That makes me real happy to hear, Ryan. Thank you so much for allowing me to come on here. And it was so good seeing you again.
Thank you, my friend. And thank you, everybody, for watching. So we'll catch up soon on the next episode.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.